Hello, and welcome to the Power of We podcast. I am your host, Nisa Brown Springman, and the founder of Ignite Your Life. Ignite is a women's holistic health, fitness, and lifestyle community. And for the past 17 years, I have had the honor, privilege, and blessing of being the recipient of the wisdom, strength, knowledge, encouragement, and inspiration that comes from being part of this incredible community. And I want you in on that. In Ignite, this is what we call the power of we. The power of we is the philosophy that Ignite is built upon, which is that two is better than one, and that God created us for community and to do life together. In this podcast, I will have conversations with a wide range of women over a wide range of topics that will provide you with wisdom, knowledge, inspiration, and encouragement. So get ready to be empowered, y'all, because here we go. Welcome to the Power of We podcast. I'm so excited for this podcast today. I'm always excited for the podcast, but I am particularly excited to introduce you to a dear friend of mine. And as I always mention as I mentioned in the intro, that I have for the last 17 years through Ignite, had the blessing of being the recipient of so much wisdom and love and goodness as a result of the power of we, the women who I get to be around and be with. And who our guest is today is one of those people. She is a source of love and light and goodness and has just been through something pretty extraordinarily difficult. And yet she has come through it like the champion and warrior that she is. And I'm just so excited for you to meet her. And I'm so excited for you to hear her story and just be blessed and encouraged by it. So that's what this is all about. And so without further ado, meet my friend, Marion Forbes. Marion, thank you for letting me have this conversation with you in this podcast.
I'm so happy to get to talk to you. Yeah, it's always fun.
So exciting. All right. So I just, I gave a little info about how I know you through Ignite, but just to give some more insight into you have been igniting now for the last 8 years, which when I looked that up, I was like, I feel like it's been way longer than that. And I just think 8 years is a long time.
I don't feel like it's been that long. I don't know. That seems really long.
I think it feels longer because I have a great friendship with you. And when we get together, not that we get to, I'm in Tulsa, you're in Austin, which we'll get into in a minute. But I feel like that I just feel like I've known you for a lot longer than 8 years. And so anyway, 8 years of Marion, which is wonderful. And so Marion and I really extra special bonded. This was in 2019 when you attended your first Lake Escape weekend, and we were floating out in the water and really enjoyed just some good kind of bonding connection time. I think it was the first time I really had a chance to get to know you extra well. But then we karaoke to Adele that night, and we really bonded over that.
Love Adele.
Love Adele. Yes. And so a little extra, something special about Marion. She has a beautiful voice. Me, not so much. She was Adele. I was the backup singer. But nonetheless, that's like my first real strong memory of just getting to spend some good time with you and having a chance to know you. And so anyway, okay. So I mentioned you live in Austin. Tell us a little bit about that. You live in Austin. Have you always lived there?
I'm a Texan. I grew up in Dallas, and I've been in Austin for 28 years. Always had family in Austin because my dad was born in Austin. So it feels like home now. I mean, that's longer, I guess, than I lived in Dallas. But I'm a Texan for sure. Went away for college and came back from medical school. Went away for residency. But Texas is home, and Austin suits me better than Dallas. Probably it's a little more casual, a little more outdoor focused.
Not as much hairspray.
Yeah,
Okay.
less
I,
hairspray, less makeup.
I didn't realize you grew up in Dallas. That's something new. I just
Mm,
assumed you were an Austinite,
yeah,
born and
no,
raised. But for sure, born and raised Texan, something we have
yeah,
in common too.
yeah.
Okay, tell us about your family. You've got 3 awesome children. Tell us about them.
I do. I have 3 awesome children. They're all adopted, as you know, because I had infertility issues. So the oldest just turned 25 a couple weeks ago, and she lives with me. Her name is Louisa. And then we got Jonathan 2 years after that. He's 25 months younger, and also came he came by a little different route, but that's Jonathan. He just graduated college. Louise is still in college and working because she's been kind of more slowly going through school. And then Lauren was a complete surprise adoption. She's 6 weeks younger than Jonathan and 26 months younger than her full sister, Louisa.
Which we're going to get into this story in a
Yeah.
moment, because
So
it is
anyway, that's
incredible.
Lauren, and she's a 5th-year senior at LSU. So yeah, and Johnson's in Houston, so they're all kind of got 2 along I-10, and Louisa here with me, so it's good.
Okay,
They're great kids.
go through those ages again.
So 25, and the other 2 are 22, turning 23. Jonathan actually turns 23 next week, and Lauren turns 23 6 weeks later.
Oh my! I don't think. See,
End
I
of
didn't realize that. I'm learning so many new things
They're
about
September,
you.
October, November birthdays. Yeah. And all
Oh
within 2
wow!
years. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of nice.
Yeah,
Is
I get all
September,
my
October,
birthdays
November?
done. And then Christmas. And then we're done for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yes, and then I was married for a long time, but I unfortunately got divorced in the last year. But have a good working relationship with my ex-husband, and thankful for thankful for all God brought us through, and all that He's taught me through that.
Yep.
Yep.
Amen. Absolutely. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And so you're a doctor, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Marion.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about, okay, what did you always know you wanted to be a doctor? What was it? How did that happen?
I don't know. I don't really honestly remember that or thinking what I wanted to be, but I always liked doctor shows. I mean, I will say I kind of grew up watching MASH because my mom liked MASH a lot, and then Marcus Welby, MD. I mean, this is really old, but I don't know. I did always really like those. I think I liked I kind of just liked the significance of what doctors did. Like it seemed like a significant thing to do, like something that had meaning. And I'm kind of all about meaning. So I don't know. When I went to school, and even college, I didn't really say what I wanted to do. So much I was what they called a closet pre-med, because all the pre-med people were out there like gunning for high grades and all this stuff, and I just didn't like that whole scene, so I just kind of stayed in the background and thought about nursing at one point, because I had a number of friends that were in nursing school, in college, but decided I think I wanted to make more of the decisions or something, but anyway, yeah, I didn't really ever think about anything else once I thought about it. It's like, no, there's really nothing else I could do, I don't think.
Well, that
So I
makes a
hope it
lot of
works out.
sense. It makes a lot of sense knowing you, because you are a nurturer. You're not a martyr at all, but you definitely are a caretaker in a way. Like when I'm around you, just your presence is nurturing. So
Thank you.
and I can see that everything that you do, you are about meaning. You are meaningful. I believe you live a very meaningful life. And so that is just something that translates into your profession, makes the most sense to me. And so what kind of medicine do you practice, or what kind of doctor are you?
So pediatrics, and I did do private practice pediatrics for 3 years, but then I came to Austin and kind of started doing a combination of of hospital and a clinic and teaching. And that really suited me. So I've been doing that. I mean, I came here 28 years ago, so I've been doing that. And then that evolved after about 3 years into starting a hospitalist group. So hospital-based pediatrics. And that suited me too, I think, because I like the complexity, I like all the kind of complex problem solving. I like spending a little more time with patients versus kind of running through the quick office visits and stuff. And I like learning, and it's always, every day's different, learning something new. I liked being with learners, so medical students and residents. And then I just really honestly love my job. Like, I love the people. I love the place. I love the kind of the attitudes of everyone there. It's just such a great group. I could be doing anything with those people and be happy, I think.
Wow.
Just all have each other's back. And we've been through some stuff. I've been through some stuff with those people, and it's just a great place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm learning so much about you. See, I had no idea any of that.
Definitely a second family. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
That changes. It doesn't make it work.
Yeah.
Just extension.
No, it's just yeah. Just going to help out. I'd help out any of those folks with anything, and they've helped me out with so much. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so fitness has always been something that's been part of your life. Well, I'm making that a broad assumption. You can elaborate more about that. But one of the questions I have here is, I mean, being a doctor, you have to be physical. You're walking, you're seeing patients, yes, of course, at times you're sitting down and examining, but, do you believe you're in such great physical shape? I would imagine it really impacts how you practice medicine and your relationship with your patients. Do you feel like there's a connection there for you too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's I
the work goes long hours.
I like the aspects of my work that are active. Like, I would not be any good sitting at a desk all day. I mean, that would just kill me. I just couldn't do that. And even so I like moving around. I like kids, and I love the fact that kids play and are active, and I don't mind running around the room trying to find, get them to give me a second to examine them. Bending down, getting up, picking a baby. I mean, that's just all part of what I do, and meeting kids kind of where they're at works fine for me, and I enjoy that. And just having fun with them. So yeah, I think there's the playful aspect of it, and with play comes activity, I think. So that's just part of the nature of it.
Yes, I love that. And I think about you and the incredible physical shape that you're in, because you've put the work in, and we're going to talk more about that. But you sometimes will work a 12-hour shift, and then you'll show up at an 8:00 class or 7:30 or 8:30 class.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen by happenstance. That's because you are in incredible physical condition. And so, do you think all the work that and I know you've conditioned yourself over time, this has just been your life, but if it were me, I'd just go straight to bed. But you choose to finish work and then go work out. So is that something that has happened over time for you, or is that just kind of how you're wired?
I guess it's how I'm wired. I mean, I guess it's that I realize that I've realized over time that I feel better when I'm active. I rest better. Sleep's really important to me. So I just know that to sleep well, I need to be active, and I don't like to sleep a whole ton during the day. It doesn't actually work for me to sleep a whole bunch, but I know I'm going to sleep better if I am active. And, there is yeah, I think just when I get done with work, it's like, okay, I'm going to have a harder time getting up and doing this later. I just want to do it now.
Yeah.
And the classes are in the morning. So, it just kind of works like this. I was like, well, I got to do it now. Maybe if I wasn't working out with a group, probably it wouldn't work out as much, but also, I guess maybe I'd try to do it later, but
yeah,
it's just, I'm already wide awake, wired kind of, because I've been doing all the stuff. And so it's like, let's just go use some more energy, work out, and then I'll rest,
Then you'll crash. That
Yeah.
to me is so impressive. So, okay, with that, again, you've been igniting for the last 8 years, and not just strength training, not just doing yoga, not just doing Pilates, like you do it all. You take all the classes. And in my opinion, you are very balanced as far as your overall health and wellness. But prior to igniting and doing all these things, I know you did a lot of yoga. Was that something was that kind of one of your first real forms of maybe organized fitness?
Yeah, I jogged back in college and med school, I didn't know anything about weights or anything really.
It
I did
really
a little
wasn't
bit
a
of
thing back then.
I know it just wasn't a thing. And I did
Yeah.
some jazzercise,
Yeah.
which felt good because I did feel like I was moving more of my body and I liked that better than the slog of running.
Yeah.
And then really the first organized thing I did probably besides jazzercise was Pilates. And I'm not very flexible. And so Pilates helped me to learn some flexibility, I think, and realize that I could be more flexible because I just didn't think that I could really. And then from Pilates, I realized, oh, maybe I can actually do yoga. So then I started doing some yoga after the Pilates.
Okay.
Met Amy doing yoga. I did this 6 a.m., I don't know, 6 or 6:30 a.m. yoga class with Amy for, I don't know, like 5 years or something.
Kula yoga.
At Kula with her husband. Her husband was in there. So there were some men in there. And yeah, I don't know. It's the only thing I would really get up early for. But that was great.
And lucky for us, because then she recruited you to come to Ignite.
Yeah, she told me about it for a long time. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. Didn't really work with my schedule. And but then, then I finally was like, oh, yeah, I think maybe I could maybe make this work, And then I learned about things that I had never done, like, Kathleen's classes and like a burpee, like what the heck's a burpee, and all these things that I'd never done. So,
whole
medicine
other
balls.
There.
Yeah, medicine balls and, kettlebells and things. And I knew I needed to do more weight bearing stuff because at that point in time, I mean, probably at that point in time, my sister's 10 years older and she was diagnosed with osteopenia. And so, and I knew my mom and my grandmother had broken their hips. So I knew I had that in my history and I knew I needed to do more weight stuff. And, I knew there was kind of body weight, but I need to actually pick something up. And I hadn't really done that. So I thought this is good. I should do this.
And you did, and you haven't looked back.
I know, because I just realized it made everything easier and better. It just helped me so much.
How long would you say before you added all of the variety that you really started physically feeling a difference?
I mean,
describe that difference.
Not long, some months maybe, because I think I started maybe in the fall with, the Ignite classes and I think I went skiing maybe that next spring and I noticed, wow, this feels better, this feels better. And I just realized that, I don't know, work felt better. I felt more energetic. Yeah, I just had more energy and stuff.
I need to ask you this personal question, though I know I ask you ahead of time. Tell us how old you are.
61, turning 62 in a month.
Okay. Yeah. So minus 8 years ago. So that was, you were 53. And that's when you really started adding all these things.
Yeah.
And despite you getting older,
Mm-hmm.
you started feeling stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's a testament to and a testimony to it's never too late to start.
No, it's not. And I had been doing some things, and so I didn't feel I never felt my age, I would say. And my kids used to say that I looked younger than my age, and some of that's genetic, for me. But then I really felt like I was in so much better shape,
Mhm.
over the last 10 years than I'd ever been.
Mhm.
And I was like a swimmer in high school and stuff, but we didn't do I mean, and I felt in shape then, but I feel really in better shape than I ever
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
And it feels great. Yeah. And it's not that hard to do. You just do
You
it,
just make the decision to
Yeah,
do it.
it's just a decision. You just do it.
Yeah.
And you get sore and, but when you do it with other people, it just takes all the, that, oh, am I going to get up and do this today? Myself, it just takes all that out of it. And then it's just
Mhm.
fun and community. And it's like, wow.
Mhm.
I mean, this is awesome.
And then 8 years later, and we'll get into this, you have a big time injury and your body bounces back in no time because
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
put
Because it's
in
like,
the
I
work.
want to go back there. I'm not staying over here. I'm going back
Yeah.
there.
So just to kind of recap what it is never too late. So
Right.
the older we get, it's not that it's ever not important, but the older we get, the more important it becomes.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
what
Yeah.
I see in Ignite are women, because we're all getting older, myself included. When I started Ignite, I was 30 years old. Now
Mhm.
I'm 47. No, I was
Mm.
30. I was 29. Now I'm 47.
Wow.
So 17 years ago, I'm getting older. I don't feel it though.
Yeah.
I feel better than I've ever felt. And I'm watching women, yourself, and even 10
I
plus years
know.
older than you,
I
like
know.
completely reverse the aging process because they're just
Yeah.
showing up.
Oh, and that amazed me too, meeting those women at Ignite. I was like, wow, there are people 10 years older than me, and they're so much stronger than me. That
Yeah.
is crazy, but that's also super inspiring.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
people in my family were active in a little different way. And like my parents square danced and contra danced, which is quite active. It's quite
Yeah.
aerobic, and complex and kind of like mentally,
Mhm.
challenging too. And so I was very impressed by that. They did it like several times a week. So I mean, they were active, but and I know they did it with people their age and, but mostly a little younger.
Mhm.
But I was just like, and they traveled and I was like, yeah, I want to I want
Yeah.
to do this stuff. And,
Yeah.
I'm working and I don't have time for all these things, but I want to get there. I want to do them.
Mhm.
I don't want to peter out at 60 and not be able to do all this fun stuff. So, yeah,
Yes, because it should just keep getting more and more fun.
yeah.
And I just had that. It wasn't an epiphany. It was a reminder this past weekend. Melaine, 10-year-old, my 10-year-old daughter, our
Mhm.
10-year-old daughter, mine and Russell's, and we went to a Luke Bryan country western
Oh,
concert,
it's
and
awesome.
we had the most fun, and we just stood up and sang and danced the whole time. And in the middle of it, I was like, this, and people around us were sitting down.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the reasons why we have to keep doing what we're doing and
Yeah.
Ignite is
Yeah.
because I want to be able to stand up and sing at a concert the whole time. I don't want to get tired and sit down. I
Yeah,
want to
it's
dance the
true,
whole time.
it's true. And as my kids would, yeah, we did active things and, whether it was, or my girls didn't got to where they didn't like the biking or hiking stuff, even though we would sort of drag them along a little bit, but they wanted to dance. And so we would put on Just Dance on the
Yeah.
Wii at home. And, I mean, yeah, they expect me up there with them. I'm up there with them. I'm not a good dancer, but, I want to do that stuff with them.
But it's
Even
not that
skiing, I want to do that stuff with them. Yeah.
yeah,
It's just, yeah.
you want to if you can't do something or if you don't do something, it's not because you can't do it. It's because I just would rather not. That's
Yeah.
the difference.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. But otherwise, I want to be out there doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Um,
would say you are doing it. You're starting to you're I know that, and we'll get into this, like you're traveling more, you're doing things. I
Yeah.
just love
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's rewind
Mhm.
to June the 8th,
June
2023.
8th, yeah.
Summer. Okay, so we were at Kathleen, who's one of my very dearest friends and a dear friend of Marion's and one of our amazing Ignite leaders. She is passionate about water sports and she's got this amazing lake house. And so for the past several summers, we have every June we have a lake escape getaway,
Yeah.
and where we ski and surf and ride the banana and
Mhm.
slide down the slide and play pickleball.
Yeah.
So this was a Thursday. We
Mhm.
were playing pickleball. Marion was out there playing pickleball. I was in the house having a fun conversation with one of our other Ignite
After
friends.
a big fun day on the lake, let's be clear. I had a really good day.
It was after dinner. It was like
Dinner.
yeah.
Right.
And so all of a sudden I'm enjoying a conversation with someone and they're like, oh, we've had an injury. We think Marion broke her arm. Like, okay. So they're getting ice. We run out there. Okay. So Marion, I'm going to ask you to take it from here. So you're playing pickleball. Describe what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The ball just hit the out, it just hit the edge line, and then instead of bouncing like straight, it bounced off to the right like those dumb pickleballs do, they don't bounce straight. And I just kind of went, to the right, and I was already kind of going to the right to be at the outer line, and then it kept going right, so I just kept going right. And I think I was a little afraid because her court, it sits like on that point on the lake, and two sides are on the water, and so that right side was on the water, and
there's a net around it, but
there is a net, but I think I was a little worried, like, oh my gosh, is that, I think I'm going over there. Is that net gonna get me? Then I landed, and I yelled, it's broken. I mean, I could feel my left hand went to my right elbow because I could feel that it wasn't right. And I could feel that it was like way out of alignment too. At first I thought like the bones were sticking out, and then I realized, okay, the bones aren't sticking out, but it still feels like really deformed. So I know it's broken, so I yelled, it's broken, and just stayed, stuck there on the ground, on that hard concrete. Yeah. And then, I remember Tracy and Courtney came over, and I just yelled, ice. I need ice. I need ibuprofen,
And you're starting to feel very nauseous too. The pain
I was, yeah, I know. And I just kept breathing, and I just had to tell myself to breathe because it hurt so bad, like my elbow.
At this time, did you know it was your elbow? Did you think it was your arm? What did you?
Oh no, I knew it was my elbow because I could feel it. My wrist started getting numb on the outside. It dawned on me that it wasn't, well, eventually I started thinking, I'm not sure if it's broken as much as dislocated.
Oh, you were thinking that?
I started thinking that towards the end of the time on the court, because I felt like the rest of my arm was like up from the elbow kind of felt okay, either side of it. It was really the elbow, and it was so deformed. But yeah, it just hurt so bad. And I just kept telling myself to breathe. I kept thinking of, Amy has done those great series on breathing, and I just kept saying, breathe, breathe, breathe. Because that's the only thing that's going to get me through this,
Okay, so this has so much, there's so much in this. So Amy is one of our dear friends as well, Ignite leaders who teaches yoga and Pilates, who introduced you to Ignite. And so Amy does all these great breathing exercises and classes. And so I love
Amy and Paula.
Yes, and Paula, of course, thank you for that. And so I love that you went right there to the breathing exercises.
I was just thinking of women in labor, you just got to breathe, I never went through labor, but I was like, this hurts ridiculously much. I'm going to throw up if I don't breathe. So
okay. So as a doctor, so you're diagnosing, you're like, okay, no need ice, and we got ice, and I know Courtney and Tracy, like they were on you.
Courtney was holding the ice. I just couldn't move, because I leaned forward. That made my arm kind of move forward, and I just was like clutching it, like for dear life. They were like, can we help you get up? I was like, well, maybe, yeah. I don't know. I just can't get up. I'm just in this weird position. I could sort of feel that I was just, starting to kind of get sore, like laying in this awkward position off to the right. I couldn't get my legs under me. I was just like, God, I hate to call 911, I'm not
we
really
were
sure I
all
need
like,
that.
all the cooks in the kitchen, like we were.
But I was like, I hate to make these women try to get me up. I think it's going to be really hard, and I hate to ask anybody to do that. So it's like, just call 911. I just got to get help to get up.
Well, we were in the background talking like, okay, we'll put her in the car and we'll go, we'll take her to the emergency room. And then we realized you couldn't move. Like,
I just couldn't get up. No.
Would be. And then I'm thinking about, you're in the back of the car, like,
I know.
It's terrible and painful. So yes, Kathleen called 911. They came, they grabbed you.
Right. Even they were like, can you get up? I'm like, no, I can't get up. That's the problem. I can't do it. Just pick me up.
They were so great. And
they were.
Oh my gosh, we were unknowing how to help except to like,
yeah,
I love you, Marion. And
I know they kept giving me pain medicine too, and they kept going, okay, what's your pain now? I'm like, it's a 10. I don't know what to tell you. It's not getting any better.
And you are so tough. So to know that pain was a 10, that speaks volumes. And let me just also give this. I was thinking about this a while ago. So 2 other previous Lake Escape getaways that we were on, we've had a sprained ankle, and you were there to which just was a fluke. You were there to nurse that and be Dr. Marion and help out with that. And then another one, we had like a slit above the eye from the surfboard, I think. Popping somebody, and you were there to kind of butterfly that all up. And now this one, now you're the patient. We're like, what do we do? I
know, but y'all were so great. And, Courtney was holding that ice on there and moving it around. Tracy was right there. Yeah, people were just really helping. So, I mean, I felt, I know. It's like, what do you do, and it feels like it's forever laying there. And,
Well, in hindsight, it kind of did feel like it was forever because we were really deliberating, like, what? Okay, do we take her to the emergency room? She can't drive herself there. I mean, as time went on, we were like, she is in a lot of pain. So ambulance comes, picks you up, takes you to the ER. Me and Courtney follow behind you. I talk to your sweet, amazing children, who we're going to talk about in a minute, who I just want to say this. When I called them, they were so concerned. They were so precious, like, what? Okay, we'll be right there. We'll be there as fast as we can. Oh my! You could just hear the panic and the sadness, kind of like our hero. She just, and I love your children for that exactly that experience that I had with them. I was like, that's what I want my kids to do for me, and how I want them to respond if the roles are reversed. But so you're in the ER, and the So you knew you felt like it was dislocated. And so what did the ER doctor go ahead and tell everybody what he diagnosed and what he said was going on?
Well, yeah, he thought it probably was, but he had to do all these x-rays and figure out like what the alignment was. And, meanwhile, I'm just like, just like, let's move along, and he was great, really. But he had to figure out the alignment to figure out how he was going to put it back, in joint. And so, it takes a little time and stuff.
It wasn't.
And he was giving me pain medicine, which again, he kept asking me how's your pain? Yeah, it's a 10. It's not getting any better, And he was like, okay. So yeah, it took about, I think it took about an hour, probably 2 hours, almost an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half from arrival for them to start to finally really knock me out and put it back in place. And all they had x-rayed at that point was my elbow. I mean, they asked me if other things hurt, and I was like, I think maybe my wrist hurts, but it's so numb because the nerve that runs over there that innervates this side of your hand and stuff. So this was all numb, this side. But I thought maybe the wrist hurt a little bit, but they didn't x-ray that till the very end. So finally, when he finally had it all figured out, and then he had to sedate me enough to put it back in joint, which is a big sedation. So you have to assemble like a team to do that. I think a nurse, there's like a nurse anesthetist, and, all these people have to be there. So the room's all full of people. And at that point, my son was back there and he wanted to watch. He thought it was so cool. So they knocked me out. Somebody apparently is like holding me to the table so that he can be yanking. And Johnson said they're just like yanking. And I'm in like La La Land, but not, it's weird, some weird medicine. I could I had thoughts going through my head. And then it's kind of like you're looking away from a distance, but I was looking at this room with cubes in it. I don't know. Anyway, and then gradually I became aware that my arm was straightening. Like, it's not like I could feel it, but I could feel the position, not any pain. It's like it's straight. And my thought was, oh my gosh, that's really good. My arm's straight. That must mean they fixed it because it's straight again. And then shortly after that, I woke up and, I just remember feeling like, okay, that's good. I'm good. And I was starting to think, maybe that's all I'd done. Maybe it was just the dislocation and that's it. And then so that was going to be all. And I was over it. So then they finally, after that, took a picture of my wrist and said, nah, you broke your wrist. And I was like, oh, darn.
Okay, so that's when I wasn't sure the series of events. And just not to make this about me, but I can totally empathize with seeing your arm and knowing it's crooked and really messed up. Because when I was in college, I broke my ulnar radius. Also thought it was a compound, like bone sticking out, and it looked like a question mark. And I was tumbling, and Janet Scott in Austin.
Yeah, Janet.
Who I was tumbling with.
Oh, wow.
And I
That's
did
awesome.
a back handspring, broke it, and I was like, oh, just laying on the ground, and my arm, it looked like a question mark right here.
Wow.
And she picked it up, and she was like, oh, Nisa, I think it's broken. And my thought was like, yeah, it's definitely broken. But when she picked it up, it went back in place.
Oh, wow.
No, the bones were still very fractured, and that's a whole
right. Oh, wow.
But nonetheless, it is a very frightening thing to see your arm look what's the word you just said a while ago?
Yeah, just deformed, really. Yeah.
Completely deformed. Yeah. Okay. So I want to touch on something that happened in the hospital. You were in a lot of pain. Before we left, once your children got there, we were able to go back and see you, and then we traded off. We left, and then they stayed. And you were in there, and you were in a lot of pain, and we just didn't even know how to help. I remember thinking, like, yes, it's just dislocated. It's not a broken elbow, because broken elbows. And selfishly, you were signed up for our summer adventure escape in Oregon, which was in end of July. And I was like, this might mean she can go. Yes. So that's what was going through my mind too.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to adventure with you.
I know, it was my first trip too. Yeah.
And so you were in a lot of pain, and we just prayed, and the whole time you were just saying, thank you, Jesus. Yes, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. And I just was like, oh, sweet Marion, like I know you're in a lot of pain, but what was going through your mind at that time?
I think I was just very much in the present moment of just breathing and praying, and just I was just all there, where else can you be? I mean, I don't know. I just was there, and I just was, I don't know, just grateful that there were people taking care of me,
Were you thinking, because I remember when I broke my arm, I remember thinking like, and I was a freshman in college, and I drove a stick shift, and I broke my right arm, and I'm right-handed. So I'm taking notes with, this is before computers and everything. And I just remember thinking like, and I waited tables. So, I'm a waitress who does this. I just remember being in that emergency room and feeling so sorry for myself. So I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? And my sister, who was an ER nurse, came in. She was came and she was my guardian.
Mhm.
And because she lived in Austin, my family lived in Waco. And I was like, I just don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to how am I going to write notes? How am I going to drive? How am I going to work? Because I was putting myself through college, and she was like, you know what? You can't change it. So you just need to accept it and move on. Like the typical ER nurse response.
Yes, so helpful.
Like, you're right. But were you having a pity party for yourself at all?
Well, yeah, some. I kept, one of my thoughts was, why couldn't I fall on my left? I mean, like, that just would have been so much better. Why was I not in Jean's spot on the left instead of my spot on the right on that silly pickleball court? And then, I was thinking, like, how am I going to work? I know I'm supposed to work in 2 nights. How am I going to do that? And, there was some of that, but I think there definitely was a lot of that, but I'm not I am always problem solving. So I am thinking of, like, how can I how can I fix this? What can I do? How can I negotiate this? So yeah, there was a lot of that too, but I did think so many times, why did I just not follow my left? It just would have been a lot easier.
Okay, so you go home and then you have a follow-up orthopedic appointment, right?
Well, yeah, the problem was when I woke up the next morning. I woke up the next morning and I got out of bed. I think I didn't even I'm not sure I called anybody to get out of bed. I think like of my kids, I think I got out of bed and I sat on the side of the bed, and then I got up and I was like, oh my gosh, my hip flexor really hurts. Like, because I took, some first steps, and it was taking a step with my right leg, bending and then putting weight was uncomfortable. And so I was kind of taking steps with my legs straight, and that felt okay. But even in my bedroom, there's a couple of steps to get up. It's a little bit of a sunken, deal situation. And so a couple of steps to get up out of it. And I was like, dang, that hurts my hip flexor. But if I stay straight, it's not, it doesn't hurt so much. I'm going to have to be careful about that, and I got this huge long arm splint on, the entire arm. I can barely see my fingertips, So, I call for help because my kids are helping me and stuff. But yeah, I went through that weekend, and I went to several a couple of functions because it was our resident graduation at work, and I went to that, and my daughter had to drive me. I, couldn't drive with this huge long arm splint on, but I kept thinking, the thing that's slowing me down is this hip flexor pull. Darn, So one morning I got up, and I think it was Sunday morning. I got up and I tried doing the foam roller, to kind of roll it out. It didn't hurt really to do that. It's just that it didn't seem to help much. I don't know. So I was kind of talking to an orthopedic friend of mine, and, about who to go see, because I had made one appointment Friday afternoon with an ortho group that I've used for many years. And, but I couldn't get an appointment till a week later. And I was thinking, and this guy that I was talking to, that's a pediatric orthopedist, arm guy, he was like, just get the earliest appointment you can get. Like, everybody's fine. Everybody's good. Just get the first appointment you can get. So then Monday I called another group, and I got an appointment for Tuesday afternoon. So I moved that up, And so then when I went, he told me all about my arm, and he was about to send me down the hall for x-rays to see that my elbow was still in alignment. And I said, by the way, my hip flexor is really hurting, He says, oh, I'm not a hip guy, I'm an arm guy. I haven't done that since, residency in orthopedics. And I said, yeah, I know, but, like, what should I go to PT for that or something? Like, it's really slowing me down. And he's like, we probably should take some x-rays, there could be some subtle fractures. I was like, no, I said, look, all my weight on my right. I can put all my weight on. I can't be broken. He goes, there can be some subtle stuff. I said, okay, whatever. So he sends me down the hall, walking down the hall to x-ray. And I get an x-ray of my elbow, and I get an x-ray of my hip, and I walk back, and I kind of round the corner to where he's hanging the films. And He turned around and looked at me and he said, yeah, it's broken. And I was like, wait, what? And he says, your hip is broken. I was standing in the hall, I mean, like right kind of outside the exam room. And I just was like, you're kidding me. I mean, this cannot be happening. This cannot be true.
Right side?
Yeah, all on the right side. And so he sits me down and he says, I'm going to go get a hip guy. And my daughter wasn't with me. She'd brought me to the appointment, but she went back home. She wanted to like take a shower and then come pick me up. So I'm texting her, come back. And
wheelchair.
So he brings in this hip guy, into the appointment. It's a real nice guy. And I just kind of burst into tears. I was just like, I said, you don't understand. You don't understand. I'm sorry, but I'm really active and I love my job and I got things to do. And you just don't understand. This just can't be happening. He says, well, you need surgery like right away, like today. And I was like, no. He says, you may need a hip replacement. I mean, we have to do an MRI and see like, what position it's in. And because he says that the head of the femur has slipped some. And I was like, no. So I'm just crying. And he's like, it's going to be okay. Really? People, it's going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You'll be able to put full weight on it. I was just like,
but you don't understand.
Oh, you don't understand.
Flow after it.
You don't have time for this. Yeah, you don't understand. And so sure enough, so this is dumb too, so then they get me a wheelchair and my daughter shows up and she wheels me out. And so he's like, we're going to go over to Seton Northwest and take x-rays. So here's your wheelchair. And, so I thought Seton Northwest was like right next to the orthopedics office. And so we go down the elevator now in the wheelchair and Lauren's pushing me and we come out and I want her to push me. I want her to push me in the wheelchair because I was going to walk over to Seton Northwest. And he was like, no, you are not going to walk across that hot parking lot. Cause it's like 105 out or something, right?
At that point. Right.
And so he's like, no, you're not walking out there. We're going to get you a wheelchair. But I thought I was supposed to push, she was supposed to push me over there. She does kind of push me out to kind of like the road. And I'm like, I don't know where the hospital is exactly. She's pushed me out on the road. And then she's like, Mom, this is dumb. I'm not going to push you across this road. And like, okay. So then she pushes me back and we get in the car.
Yeah, I get that.
And then it's like, well, what do we do with the wheelchair? So she took it back, I guess. But anyway, she drives me over to the ER and they were lovely, and that all went remarkably fast. There was nobody in the ER. I got my MRI and got me up to room and stuff. But then I was still like, this just can't be happening. And I didn't, know who to call. And I think I was finally talking to my brother. And my brother was like, well, this will be good. You'll have this screw, you'll have this screw across your femoral neck and that'll make it super strong and you won't break that thing again. It's going to be stronger than ever. You're still going to have your hip joint. It's going to be good. You're not going to have an artificial joint that has to be replaced in 20 years. This is all going to be good. I was like, okay, I hadn't really thought of that. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean,
oh my God.
I just thought.
Okay, so then so elbow and wrist, no surgery on those. Those
right.
are just going to heal on their own.
Yeah.
So then how soon thereafter, remind me, because it's all a little foggy in my brain, did you end up having to get the hip replacement?
No, I didn't get the hip replacement.
The hip surgery. Okay, that's what I thought.
No, so I just had that surgery that night. So literally 6 hours after my appointment, I was in surgery. Got back to the room around close to midnight, and I was out of there at like 3 the next afternoon, and we stopped off to get me a cane, and they told me I could be full weight bearing, and I looked at the exercises that they gave me, to do post-op, and I looked at them and I was like, and they were like things to do in bed, basically, I was like, hey, that's like a hip, that's like a glute raise. And that's kind of like the Pilates leg things, leg circles, so I kind of figured out how I was going to adapt it and do things that,
Uh-huh.
do things I knew how to do. So everything was really good for a week because you put full weight on it. It felt like my quad, somebody had ripped the thing open because it was like super tight, so I started, trying to do range of motion, doing leg circles in bed and, doing glute raises and stuff. And so I was making good progress. So literally like a week out, I had another arm appointment and, I was like barely using the cane. I remember I had the cane with me, but I wasn't really putting much weight on it. And so now I got two surgeons. I got two doctors, right? So I'm going to my arm guy, but I see the hip guy in the hall and I said, look, I'm doing good. And he goes, oh yeah, you are. And then like 3 days later, I felt like something shifted and it wasn't like a lot of pain, but it just felt a little more uncomfortable and I felt like my leg was shorter. And I was like, this is not right. There's something not right about this. I think I called the doctor's office. And I got an appointment for the next Tuesday. I think I was supposed to be seen like a week from that Friday with the hip guy, but I moved the appointment up. And I tried to explain it to this, nurse taking the message, how it just didn't feel right. And, and she probably thought I was crazy. I was like, maybe this is the way it's supposed to feel. Maybe, but I don't know. Something about it feels shorter. So I went to went early the next week to the doctor again, and he took another x-ray and he comes in and he sits down and he says, yeah, he says it slipped. The head of the femur like compressed a little further like it had with the original fracture, but now it compressed into the screw they put across there and it slipped a little more down, which is why he says, yeah, it's probably a 1/4 inch shorter.
Oh, Marion, I had no idea that this happened.
Yeah. And so I was like, darn, So then he's like, it's like, really? I said, did I do too much? Because I was kind of doing some squats and stuff, because I was trying to get that quad to like stretch out. It felt kind of horrible. So he's like, no, I don't think you did too much. I think this is just a complication and just probably your bones, and, anyway, so he says at that point, you're going to have to, our options are, partial weight bearing for the next 7 or 8 weeks or a hip replacement. I'm going to go ahead and schedule you for a hip replacement. And I said, at this point, okay. He says, the earliest I could do it would be like next week. I said, not happening. I said, I'm going to camp and let's do it for the week after. Because I'm going to camp and I'm supposed to be there for 10 days. And he's like, you're going where? And I said, I'm going to camp. It's my happy place and I need to go to camp. I need to get the frick out of Austin and I need to get in the Frio River. And he's like, I don't know. Do you really is that really what you want to do? Yes, I want to do that. A week's not going to make a difference with the hip replacement, right? And he says, no, it's not. You're just going to have to limp around. And even he was like, yeah, you can use like a walker. And, you can, I said, what is partial weight bearing? He says, it's just toe walking on the right and full, putting all your weight on your left leg and then, using your arms to take that weight from the right with a walker. And I said, well, but I got this arm thing.
Yes, I've been thinking about that.
And he says, oh yeah. Well, so yeah, you're going to have to use a quad cane. You're going to have to put the weight on the left, I guess. That's going to be kind of hard. It's like, oh my gosh. So,
okay, I didn't even, Marion, I did. So then you went back and had a hip replacement?
So no, so I went to camp for 10 days.
Yes. We'll get into that in a second because that's
went to camp. I hobbled around on my quad cane. They were so, so nice and took care of me. And everything was good. I came back and I had to, so it ended up being 2 weeks after camp that was the surgery was going to be. And so they made me do all my pre-op stuff. You have to have a whole nother appointment for your pre-op. And then the Friday before the surgery was supposed to be the Friday I got back from camp. I needed to have another x-ray because they have to see the, the alignment and the position and everything to figure out like what the replacement's going to, be exactly. Like they have to measure, the x-ray tech told me it's really important that, you get really good x-rays because this is how they're going to measure for your hip replacement. So I get the x-rays and then he looks at them and he says, it's completely stable. Like it hasn't shifted anymore, because he really thought, that it was going to shift more and I was going to be in more and more pain, because he said, come back if you need to, if you're in more pain and stuff. And I said, yeah, I will. I'll come back, from camp. But I wasn't in more pain. And he says, well, it's stable. He says, so now you really have options. You can have the hip replacement, and that's going to, put you out. He says, realistically, probably a month from, another month off of work. Or you can do another, at that point, like month or 4 or 5 weeks of partial weight bearing, and let it heal. And we'll see if it heals. If it heals, then you can get a hip replacement down the line more electively, more when you want to. And he says, that's better because I don't like to do two surgeries so close together because it's a higher risk of infection and stuff. So I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't know what to do at that point, but like I said, I guess I'll wait, I guess I'll see. Since, yeah, I get it that it's not optimal to go back in there. So, he saw me back in another 3 weeks and it was again stable. And then I did another couple weeks of partial weight bearing. And he saw me back one more time and it was still stable and it was starting to heal. That's what we're looking for, is a tiny, first bits of healing. And he says, there's a tiny bit of healing. So now you can put weight on it. And I actually that was on a Tuesday. So, and I couldn't move up that appointment, but I actually had started back to work that Sunday night before that, because it was our national pediatric hospitalist meetings and half of my group was going to be out and only the bare minimum were going to be back, in town. And then they really needed me. I mean, it was a terrible time to be off of work. Like work was so busy and we were so short staffed. But anyway, so they got me an attendant with a wheelchair to take call with me and to push me around, which felt so bizarre. But she pushed me around and I'd have the quad cane for when I got up, and so I did that for like 3 days, 4 days till I got the go ahead to put full weight bearing. And then I was so happy to get off of my left wrist because, at this point my cast is off my right wrist and it's really stiff and, uncomfortable. I still can't put hardly any weight on it. I'm putting all my weight on my left wrist and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd wonder, I couldn't decide which wrist hurt more.
Yeah. Did I break my left wrist?
Because my left wrist hurt so much from all that weight I've been putting on it.
Well, and you're doing everything with that left arm.
It was so uncomfortable. And like my palm hurt from the pressure of the cane. Yeah, I was really unhappy with my left wrist. So, I was so glad to like pitch that thing, out the window. And then my attendant, went away. And then I was just walking slow, and kind of pacing myself. And
so I know this seems like a long period of time, but in the span of a year and the 3 injuries, I just was looking this up. I should have looked this up earlier, but as you were talking, I was like, I got to look to see when Marion's first class back to Ignite was.
Yeah, September 1st.
September the 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, you're 61.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, or 61.
Mm-hmm.
You just broke your wrist. You dislocated an elbow and you fractured a hip and had to have surgery on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 major things that a 61-year-old woman went through, and July, 3 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Less than 3 months was your recovery period. And so this was what I knew at some point I would do a podcast with you because I love you. Like all of our Ignite members, every single one of you have lived an extraordinary life and you have some great story to tell, some source of inspiration. But what made me want to I gotta get married on this podcast today is because one of our team members, I think it was Kathleen, took a great picture of you in class, and you were fully extended up like this with dumbbells above your head, a big smile on your face. And I went, this is the same person who, like 3.5 months ago, just broke like the whole right side of her body.
Yeah.
And she is back in class with her arms extended, 2 heavy weights above her head. Now, I could tell that one arm was a little bit, wasn't perfect. It'll get there. I've got one of those arms too from my trauma in that right arm. But I was like, holy cow, this is. And so I immediately called you up and said, Marion, would you please be a guest on this podcast? Because the world needs to hear what it looks like when you put the work in. You have been doing this for 8 years. And before you were taking care of yourself, because injuries they are inevitable. At some point they come, because if we live life to the fullest, or even if we don't, just, tripping over something that's in the living room or on the bedroom, whatever.
I know it's so easy. I know it didn't have to be this. It could have been anything.
Yeah. And so the better shape you are in, the stronger your bones. And my point to you was, Marion, you're the perfect candidate for osteoporosis.
Oh, yeah.
You are a woman over 50. You're Caucasian. You have blonde hair. You have small bones.
Yeah.
You are the perfect osteoporosis.
I got a strong family history. I mean, yeah.
And I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, I do. My mom and my grandmother, I remember both of their hip fractures, in their 80s, which at first really did upset me. It upset me that it was happening to me at this age, but, and I kind of, I did cry that first week that I was home. I cried, a number of times, because I just kept thinking, I would just get like, all this happened from one ridiculous fall. Like why? Like, how could that be? It's just a fall. I mean, really, but that was really the only time that I did that. And I thought, I don't know. I just, after that week of some crying, I just said, this is, I can do this. I mean, this is just a hard thing, but we do hard things.
We do hard things.
That's what they tell us in Ignite. That is what we do in life. I believe that. Yep. That is how I feel like I live anyway. Nobody ever said it was going to be easy. I mean, a very influential book in my life was a Scott Peck book. And the first line is, life is hard. I mean, nobody ever said it wasn't going to be hard.
What
and in my
book?
faith, the road less traveled. Yeah.
First line, life is hard. Yep.
Yeah. Life is hard, but that's not the end, the all and end all, I know all these strong women, both, in my life, my several of my close friends, in my work at Ignite. I know all these strong women, and I'm not giving up. I'm gonna go strong, and I'm gonna get over this, So I was doing squats that first week after surgery, and I was doing weights. So I remember my first PT appointment for my arm. I still had my cast on, and I was trying to, because they get you out of the long arm thing. He told me it's so important I get you out of this in 2 weeks, and it's a short arm because you got to start working on range of motion in that elbow, right away. So soon as that long arm cast came off and I was just in the short arm, I was doing stuff with weights. I had my little 2-pound weights, and I bought some 3-pound weights, and I'm starting to do stuff with weights. And I go to my first PT appointment, and she goes, yeah, you can't be doing that with weights. You're not supposed to. You're only supposed to be doing range of motion, no weights. I was like, okay, well, it didn't hurt. I mean, it just felt like the muscles. I could see my upper arm was all weak, so as soon as she told me I could do weights, I went back to doing the weights, but I was doing weights, and I was thinking about Kathleen, and I was thinking about Andy does these things, like this. And I was thinking about that, and I would do that. And yeah, I was like, I'm getting this thing stronger. I don't like the looks of this, and I can't do stuff with my elbow like this. So, so the arm PT was like, wow, you are making some progress here. I was like, yeah, I'm working on this, I mean,
This is why you were such an inspiration, and why I knew this had to happen, our podcast together, because at no point you cried a little bit and you got over it, and you said, what can I do to change this? I can't change the break,
nope,
but I can do all that I have to do.
Right.
Can't change history. I got to look forward. How do I recover and heal as quickly as possible so I can get back to doing the things that I love? And you did all of that. I mean, the doctors have to think you had to make record-breaking recovery timing.
Oh yeah, they were like, yeah, you were like way ahead of the curve. I said, good, that is exactly where I wanted to be. I am determined to be ahead of the curve. Because there's not that I'm trying to prove anything.
Of course,
I just want to do stuff, and I want to get back there. And I'm not, and I know that the sooner you do it, the better, really. It's really interesting because I met an orthopedist through an opportunity at work to get involved with the committee, and his area of research is around why people don't recover function after injuries, especially older people. And it's really around their psychology of not being willing to hurt some, not being willing to push through the pain to do the work to get back to functional levels. So you look up these statistics, and if you break more than one thing, the odds are you're over 55, you lose a functional level. So if you were walking and, exercising before, well, you go back to just walking, but you can't do, exertional stuff before. If you were only walking, then you go to a cane. If you were with a cane before, you go to a wheelchair. I mean, this is what the statistics are,
Over 55?
I think it's over 55 or 60. Because people don't want to push through that pain. And the other thing I thought about was, I don't think I experienced pain. Like, they would ask me, is it pain? And I'd say, no, it's not really pain. It's just kind of like stretching. It's kind of like when I work out and, I'm sore afterwards.
You're like, let me tell you, I know pain, and it's when I do burpees after one after another. This is not.
I know. And I've pulled I pulled my hamstring before, and it took like almost a year to not
those are the worst.
But I didn't call it pain. So I called it kind of stretching, like that stretching, working out. And I know that I'm going to be stronger after that. So I don't really even call it pain. I think some people, but I started thinking about that and thinking that some people stop at that and they call that pain, and then they don't want to push through that. But that's not even how I register it. So I think that comes from knowing my body and knowing this is what it happens after a hard workout.
And knowing what pain is versus an injury. Like, there's a difference. And we talk to our kids about that. Like, are you injured?
Right.
Or is this just a little pain? Because pain is normal.
Right.
Between an injury, and obviously you had injuries.
Right.
But I think, again, it just goes back to everything you've done, which is you have pushed your body and you have put positive stress on your body.
Right.
Then when this came, you knew what that was all about, right? And you push yourself. I say this a lot in our at-home classes, like, because when I'm teaching, I'm like, I just really want to quit right now. This is hurting so bad. But I'm like, but I have to, in that moment, push past. I just have to breathe and go right through that pain point. And the second I make that decision, because it's all up here, I'm going to push past this pain point. It's like a flow after that.
I know and you can like feel the strength. Like I can, and so I could feel that this is uncomfortable, but I can feel strength underneath that discomfort. And I just kind of have to access that. And so, Yeah, so I would, even when I was only supposed to be partial weight bearing, I was doing some little squats. I was putting, over most of the weight on the left, but I was doing some little squats with my arm stuff,
Mhm.
because I thought it's not hurting. It's not hurting, it's just stretching those muscles some, and I
Mhm.
need that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it's just it's a lot of how you look at it and kind of how you
Mhm.
label it for your own brain. Um,
Yes.
so yeah.
Well, at no point in time do I feel like, did you ever see yourself maybe like, why in the world did I have to fall in this way? Like a victim in this thing. You were a victor in
No,
this
it's
thing.
like stuff's gonna happen, and
Yeah.
and actually, I do really recall this, that Kathleen at the lake house in the bathroom, the downstairs bathroom,
Mhm.
there's a poster.
Oh,
I think it
yes,
was new
yes,
this year. It's like of a
yes.
water skier. It's one of those retro looking posters of a water skier, and it says, "Everything in life will kill you, so just have fun." And I remember seeing that that afternoon. I think Thursday afternoon. And it's so true, right? I mean, it's just like I could fall in my own house, tripping over a shoe that got left out. I could fall, anything, right? And you hear all those stories. So it's like, at least I was having fun. I had a good, I mean, and I'm going to go back to having fun. So, um,
I mean, we could just do a hard stop there because that says it all. Um, Everything in life will kill you.
yeah,
So you might as well have fun in the process of it.
yeah, yeah. I think
Wow.
I look at people that are just so cautious, and
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, I get that, but yeah, I don't know.
Mhm.
Might as well have fun. Life is
Oh,
short.
okay. So to recap, because there's more I want to talk to you about. To recap, you started really exercising the full gamut of strength, Pilates, yoga. You put it all together
Hmm.
8 years ago. It's
Hmm.
not like you were sedentary before. Certainly never not that. You were never
Right.
sedentary. But you started really you're extremely consistent. And we're talking like 3 to 5 times a week consistent
Hmm.
in Ignite
No,
classes.
I can. Yeah.
8 years to having what could have been a life altering injury. You broke 2 bones, had surgery on one, and dislocated an elbow. And you could have very easily waved the white flag and said, I'm out. I'm done. This was fun. But it refired, created a refire in you,
Yeah.
re-energized you. But I just am sticking with this, that it's you, an average person who does not exercise, who's 61 years old, this would have taken them down.
Yeah.
But because you put the work in, you've built really strong bones. And I think almost anybody this would have happened to anybody who fell hard enough like you did. I don't think you have weak bones. You're not osteopenia. Um,
Well, it was
or
just
are you?
barely borderline, not enough to
Okay.
treat. And I was kind of offended when I went to the endocrine doctor, because I have been following her because my sister has osteoporosis
Uh-huh.
already. I mean, she's kind of borderline osteoporosis, and she's been on meds for more than 10 years. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
she's 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she falls into that sort of more cautious category, though she does
Mm-hmm.
exercise, but it's pretty light, it's fairly
Yeah.
light. Um, but so I've been followed for a long time, and so I was a little offended when I went to see this woman who's, yeah. Anyway, her bedside manners a little challenging. She's very blunt, and she said, "Well, this is osteoporosis because you fell from standing." I was like, "Well, standing. I would not say this was a fall from standing. I was moving
No.
with some speed, so I was a little offended about that." She goes, "It doesn't matter. It still count. It's still a fall from standing, and it still puts you automatically in the category of severe osteoporosis."
What?
Yeah, I
I
don't.
would have been
So
offended too.
so I was a little bit offended, and to be honest, she did not even notice that I had a cast on my wrist at that first visit. She did a little more workup and saw me back a week later, and she says to me, "What happened to your wrist?" I said, "What do you mean, what happened to my wrist? I tried to explain this to you. I fell and broke several things on my right side." And she's like, "Was that the same fall?" And I said, "Yes, it was the same fall." She goes, "Well, that's a fragility fracture too, your wrist." I was like, "Oh, come on." I mean, I dislocated my elbow. I mean, I didn't break. It's not like the thing
Right.
shattered. Anyway, I was a little bit offended, but whatever. It doesn't matter. I was going to get put on heavy duty meds anyway. But yeah, anything could have done this, I think, falling on a hard
yes.
surface.
You
So
were not standing. I was not out there, but I've watched you play pickleball, and you are a go-getter.
I was
I
moving
can totally
around.
envision you were moving towards the ball to get the ball. And yes, that would have, I think, hurt most people, broken a bone, at least one. And so my point to all this is you were strong before, and the reason why you've healed, your bones healed so quickly, is because your bones were already so strong, and your mind was probably strong.
Yeah.
And your faith was even stronger.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that.
Yes.
But I just want to give some quick osteoporosis data.
Yeah.
So if you are women over 50 who are both Caucasian and Asian, they and anyone who weighs less than 125 pounds, women who have gone through menopause, there is the huge risk factor. They're at risk for osteoporosis.
Yeah.
And that women sustain 75 to 80% of all hip fractures. So that's just something to note. And then the National Osteoporosis Foundation estimates that half of all women over 50 will develop osteoporosis, and 80%, 80% are women. Did I say that right? Estimate half of women over 50 will develop osteoporosis. Oh, and 80% of all Americans with osteoporosis are women. So that being said, supplements, great. Calcium, awesome.
Oh, strength, yeah. And I've been doing that, religiously, but I also did, weight bearing exercise, and I did take estrogen as long as I possibly could. I didn't have risk factors to say I couldn't, so I took it as long as I could because I knew about my risk and thought, it's not causing me any harm, so I'll do it. So I feel like I did everything I could, but my genetics just, unfortunately,
they are what they are.
Got the better of me, a little bit, but only a little bit. So,
well, for less than 3 months, they got. I mean, that is it. So, the moral of this story is strength train,
right?
Do yoga, do Pilates, do it all. Have a positive attitude, pray a lot.
Yeah.
And you'll be back to no time because injuries are inevitable. They just happen.
Yeah. Me too.
And so, real fast, Lady Lodge, you go back there every year to be a doctor. You're Dr. Marion during that summer camp, Frio River, right?
Yeah.
And you were just adamant. You said, I think that water is going to be healing. So interestingly, you went there with the little issue in the hip and you came back. You did not have to have a hip replacement. Do you think that Frio water had a little something to do with all that?
Maybe so. It was scary getting in because camp doesn't have it's not like a swimming pool with nice, flat access exactly. And so it was a little scary getting in the water, and I had to have this cast cover and everything. But and my surgeon was like, I don't usually let people submerge, 2 weeks after they get their staples out. And I was like, yeah, well, sorry. And he goes, yeah, you'll probably be fine. But I got in, and then once I got in, I was in it like an inner tube, and then I started kind of kicking some, and I was like, oh, this.
How did you get in that inner tube?
I my kids were kind of helping me kind of hold the tube there, and then I kind of turned around and sat in it, sat backwards, in it. It was a little scary, but it felt so good. The water's, it wasn't a real cold water summer, I will say. It varies a little bit year to year, but it still felt so good. And just kicking some, I realized, wow, yeah, I can kick. Yeah, that feels good, So I kicked and we paddled over, I used my arms, we paddled around and stuff. And it was really fun.
So here's what I think about that. I love that you gave yourself that gift because you knew you needed that more than anything for your soul. This is a really important thing for you to do. It's a happy place, as you said earlier. You've been doing it for how long? How long have you been going?
I think this was 20 years or 21 years for youth camp. Yeah.
And just so you know, we always get a picture from Marion in the summer from her being there. We have this Ignite Around the World contest where we wear our Ignite stuff and take pictures of her doing all kinds of fun summer stuff. And here Marion was with her cast.
Yes. Yes.
beach towel.
Yes.
And I think year before we got one with your Ignite sunglasses, also
Yeah.
cute.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is just some wisdom right there.
Yeah.
That we always need, no matter if we're in the middle of injury or not, just doing things that feed our soul and that are healing to our body and our mind, and more than anything, our spirit. That changes things, because the mind and the spirit and the body, they're all connected, right? And so if our body and our mind is strong, but our spirit's weak or it's deprived of goodness, then there's going to be an imbalance there. And the body is, I believe, is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
There's just not going to be the healing that and the wholeness that can take place there.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad you did that for yourself.
Yeah, several people prayed for me there. That was really sweet, and it's often been described as a thin place, a place where people feel like they're closer to God. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely just it's just been a really important part. A place that's been really important in my spiritual life. I've met so many wonderful people there. And I'm so well loved there. Like, there's just people just take care of each other, and it's just a beautiful place. And, getting to see kids and love on them. My kids were all there this time, which was awesome.
Oh,
and
good.
yeah, it's just a really, really special place, and a place that I just really feel God's spirit.
Well, I have been to family camp there before when our children were little, and it is magical. You feel the spirit of God there. You cannot get cell phone service, which is amazing.
Right.
At least I couldn't.
Yeah.
Back then, that's part, like, you just remove yourself from distraction.
No
and
TV,
none of that superficial, artificial stuff. It is just, it's holy. I think it's holy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
And I think this author. So I've read a book. I want to do a podcast with her, Paula Darcy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gift of the Red Bird. And she went to Lady Lodge.
She's been there many times. She's been a speaker there. Yeah.
Well, that was part of her healing. She went and camped out there. Do you recall?
Yeah, I do. I do know that. Yeah.
And so I couldn't stop reading that book when I started. And so as you described my experience, Lady Lodge, as you described that, your affinity and connection with it, and then having read that book, it is a very special place. And I love that you did that for yourself. So since we're talking about special places and holy places and being prayed for, you have a very devout, beautiful faith. We prayed in the emergency room. We, prayed before, after, and at home class, during, or before, an in-person class. And we both, we're Christians, have a faith in Jesus Christ. And so that is so clear and apparent in talking to you, because your light, that light of His just shines so brightly through you. That is just so apparent. So what does your faith mean to you?
I mean, it's everything. It's just that's who I'm made to be, I'm made in God's image, and I'm made to give Him glory. And that's my only real purpose in life, I think. I mean, He's given me the strength and the wisdom to do things, but it's for Him, and yeah, I just think I can't imagine my life otherwise. It's just it's everything: my purpose, my strength, my joy, my comfort when I'm sad. It's everything.
So have you, some people just naturally have a faith, like just it's a spiritual gift. Some people develop it over time. I think no matter what, all of our faith is, being matured and developed over time. But would you say you're just, naturally faithful, or was there a defining moment in your life when you're like, this is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably more, my faith has always been there. I mean, I've always been, I feel like I've always kind of had a connection with God. I mean, definitely during high school, or really probably started in middle school, I was involved in a youth ministry thing where I really met, some real authentic Christians that really did influence me and inspire me. I got real involved in music with that, and which is a big part of my faith. And I just, I just saw people, really authentic young people that really walked the talk and meant it and had that purpose in their life. And so I think they really inspired me. I think I grew up in a household that was very, kind of intellectual and not very emotional. And so I kind of have that tendency. But in that Christian group, I learned that, all emotions were fine with God, and and that
You can handle it.
gave me a lot of freedom. Yeah,
Yeah.
it gave me a lot of freedom. And I realized that was an important part of who I was. And, didn't mean I couldn't also be intellectual or
course.
whatever, but yeah, just an important part of who I am. And I can show that emotion and share that emotion with friends, and I can come alongside people that are hurting, and because I have felt that myself and acknowledge that, and make mistakes and can come alongside people that have made mistakes, because I've been there and I've felt forgiveness. So yeah, I think probably, my middle school, high school time was really, really faith building. And then,
I love that.
Yeah.
So I love that you can recognize that there can be intellectual and science, and there can be God. They work so well together.
Yeah. Yeah, he made my mind, and he's way smarter than I am.
Totally. Yeah, it
smarter
doesn't
than
have to be one or
anybody.
the other.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay, so you mentioned grace and forgiveness, and I'm going to read what you told us in your member spotlight. Had this up a while ago, and then I somehow got rid of it. So we asked you in your member spotlight on our blog what your favorite word was, and this is what you said. You said, "My favorite word is grace. It's something I need to give and receive regularly. It's God's goodness in one word, and it's something the world needs." And as you and I were talking about this earlier, like, can we get an amen on that? Yes. Everybody needs grace. Everybody's going to say something stupid, do something stupid, like whatever. We're all just human. And grace is, it has to be.
Right.
It is, it has to happen. And so how it changes everything. And so why is that? When did that occur to you that was your favorite word, and why that's something that's so important to you?
I don't know, a moment that happened, that I can pin that to, but I know that it's just become increasingly important in the last, 10, 20 years. Just, I think kids, learn so much grace, right? I mean, just the responsibility of raising kids, and just the the mistakes we make with our kids, and it's just, and just the grace you have to give kids because they're kids, it's just, I think it just all developed in there. And it's just become more and more important. And I think along with it, I've learned such gratefulness, I think I'm grateful that I've learned gratefulness, that's just such a beautiful part of my life too, is just knowing that I'm so thankful for so many people and things. And when I'm outside, I'm so thankful for trees and sky and clouds and water. And I don't know, I'm just thankful. And that's kind of come out of grace, I think I learned about grace maybe, but then just that's also become so important. It's just the gratefulness that comes from knowing grace. I just am, and I often think during the day, I should have.
It's even hard to describe. I mean, I
can see
it's
hard to describe, and so many times I think I should have thanked, like, I don't know, yesterday when I was in Kathleen's class, and she was talking about a member whose birthday it was, and saying all these wonderful things. I kept thinking, I should have texted her and told her just how thankful I am that she lifts people up like that. That it's wonderful to have a place where you can go and somebody can say nice things about you on your birthday, like really meaningful, nice things, not just, oh, happy birthday,
Yeah.
great to see you, have a great
So
year. Well,
yeah,
just like really meaningful things, gratefulness for another person. And I wished I'd, expressed that to her. I don't know, just so many times I think of that just during the day, and I'm glad that gratefulness is just so often on my heart. And the times I get in trouble kind of and do dumb things or say dumb things is because I'm sort of not thinking of that,
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm not thankful for this challenging patient in front of me. I'm annoyed about something that they're doing or saying, or, I mean, I'm in the opposite place, and that makes me short or insensitive or something, so gratefulness and grace really keep me grounded,
Totally. So it does. Grace and gratitude, they change everything.
Yeah.
I used to say gratitude changes everything, but it does. You're exactly right. It's grace and gratitude changes everything, and they really do go hand in hand. And something that Martha Lynn, Martha Lynn Mangum in Ignite, she's also my coach. And sometimes if I, come across something that's really challenging, I'm like, oh my God, I just don't want to have to deal with this right now. And she's like, you know what? You just say, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. So I pass that on to Russell, my husband, who is now a head college basketball coach.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
When he would come across some challenging situations as an assistant coach, I'm like, thank you for the opportunity. And we have that conversation a lot. Like, when we can just say that, it's a total mindset shift to one of gratitude, and it changes the way we look at that thing.
Right. Yeah, it does. It totally changes it. I read that book, very meaningful book. Was it 1,000 Gifts of Gratefulness or something? I did that for a long time, and I still do it at times. I'll write down 3 things that I'm thankful for every day. It just that really made a big impact on me, to just write those things down, little things.
Well, and it does. I think it changes the wiring in our brain.
Yeah.
And it has to change the wiring in our heart, which therefore it transforms the body. It just makes the body healthier and happier.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things I'm thankful for from this summer, Okay, I didn't get up and meditate every day like I thought I was going to do, or I don't know. It turns out it's amazingly busy when you have to go to all these appointments and rehab and this and that and stuff. But, I'm grateful for the prayer time that I did have. I'm grateful for some books that I read. I'm grateful for my kids being around. I'm so grateful for my one daughter that was my main helper that I bonded with even more. I'm grateful for just so many friends I just got to, see in a new light and just receive from. There's so many things I'm grateful for. I got an 8-week vacation from work. I mean, it wasn't exactly the vacation I would have picked, but I got really rested and,
Well, I'm sorry that you experienced that, but I am grateful that you are here to share your story, because you are, I'm just going to keep saying it, you're a humongous source of inspiration. You were before, but you are in a different kind of way, or you're like an inspiration, and this is in addition to inspiration. And you mentioned your kids, and they were so precious. As I said earlier, that's what I hope my kids do for me when and if this something like this when I need them in that kind of way. And so perfect transition into you have 3 adopted children, and these are really beautiful and unique stories about all 3.
Every one
how
of them.
you adopted. Yeah, could you share, please?
Yeah, just every one of them, I mean, adoption's scary in some ways, I just, yeah, but, we none of our, we get what we get when we get kids. And I figured that out, being a pediatrician, that you don't know what you're going to get. And so once that really sort of sunk in, I think I adoption, was like, great. I can do adoption because, there's no guarantees about any kid that's coming my way. So, first kiddo, Louisa, came so quickly after we turned in paperwork. I mean, people tell you it's going to take so long, and I'm not the most patient of people, but within 6 weeks of turning in that paperwork, we heard about Louisa, and, such a beautiful little girl, and so sweet and calm. And I remember this woman that was just a neighbor saying to me, she held her and she said, she says, I can tell by holding her that she's a good one. I can just tell by holding her, the way she sort of sinks into you, and I can just tell she's a good one. And anyway, she's a beautiful soul. And then getting Jonathan again very quickly, and by a totally different route through a church that we used to go to, pastor that was counseling a teen that sort of knew of us through her parents and grandparents that we were involved in music ministry with at that church that we didn't even still go to. So he came through that route and with a fully open adoption. And then Lauren, who came along unannounced, as a complete surprise, because we had sent a letter to Louisa's birth parents saying that we had adopted a little boy. And 6 weeks later, they gave birth, the birth mom gave birth to a full sister. And she, she had heard from us. And so she asked if we, would consider adopting Lauren, because she hadn't made any kind of advance planning. So, it was just the day that she was born that she contacted the agency. So then it was just like, okay, we just got to get the gear together, we got a few weeks for the legal stuff's going to have to get done. So we got to get the gear together for for basically twins, which run in my family. My sister and my brother both have twins. So,
and what's the age difference? I'm sorry. What's the
6 weeks? They're 6 weeks apart. Jonathan and Lauren.
Jonathan and
Lauren.
Louisa, how old was Louisa?
So Louisa was 2 years older. So it was just 25 months older than Jonathan, 26 months older than Lauren.
So you had a toddler and 2 infants.
Yeah. But, kids are fun. Babies are easy, I think. So babies are pretty easy.
Okay, but I want to put this all together.
Yeah.
So you have Lauren.
Mm-hmm. Louisa,
right?
oldest.
Louisa.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later, you get Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 weeks later, you get Jonathan as an infant.
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks later, you get
Lauren.
Louisa. Sorry, Lauren. I don't know why. I'm going to write that down.
And both girls were about 3 weeks when they came home. Jonathan was 2 days old when he came home.
Oh my goodness.
The girls are both 3 weeks.
But Louisa and Lauren are sisters.
They are sisters, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so here you have these 2 sisters who are now getting to be together. Jonathan, do you mind sharing his story about his parents and then what's coming back?
Jonathan's unrelated, and but we have an open relationship. It started out kind of dicey because the birth father's parents had wanted to adopt him, but the birth father and birth mother decided they didn't want his parents to adopt him, and they were found us.
Right. This happened when they were in a relationship when they were teenagers.
They were teens. They were in a relationship, and we had some direct contact with them. Neither one of the teens really. They were both going off to college. That a year or so later, a year or two later, they said they really didn't want to be very directly involved, but they wanted to kind of hear about stuff. The birth grandparents ended up being kind of the more involved ones. But so, yeah, so we had, we saw them very occasionally over the years, but definitely kept in some contact. And then Jonathan, being the kid that he is, he's a big extrovert, kind of an emotional kid, very kind of nostalgic and kind of kid. He wanted to connect with his birth mother when he was in late high school, and we're like, great, he got to meet up with her through actually when he was doing a band trip. He knew she was involved in music, and he was very passionate about music. She was a high school, elementary music teacher, and he thought he wanted to, teach music. So he wanted to connect with her, and he did, and that went great. And his birth mom was so lovely, wrote us a lovely letter beforehand. Oh, are there things we shouldn't talk about? Or, I'm nervous about this. I was like, oh, Jonathan is total extrovert. You just, he's just all out there. You just talk about whatever you want, because what you see is what you get with him. Like,
Marion, I'm sorry. How old was he at this point?
He was 17 at that point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was 17. He started talking about it when he was like 16. And then that next year, so he's, so at that point he's like texting with her some, and that's great. And then, the next year I decided and he was getting his Eagle Scout, and I decided to invite his dad, his birth dad, who had a son. His wife had died, and he had a son who actually was adopted. His wife couldn't have kids.
Wow.
I decided to invite them to Jonathan's Eagle ceremony. I knew he was in town or kind of near Austin.
And may I
really
ask
know
you,
why?
Was there any kind of relationship there? Had they?
No, not really. He'd brought up kind of connecting with them, and we'd had a little bit more connection with his, interestingly, the birth aunt, and like I said, the birth grandparents, and one of those grandparents had died, and we'd gone to her funeral a number of years before, probably 6 or 7 years before that. So we'd had a little bit of contact, but yeah, I don't know. I just kind of I would think it was a God thing. I just kind of got inspired to invite Billy and his son. And I asked Jonathan about it before I did it, and he said, yeah, that'd be fine. Cause he kind of talked about getting together with Billy. So he said, fine. So that was like spring of his senior year. And Billy came and posted this lovely thing on Facebook afterwards, how proud he was of Jonathan, how proud he was and grateful to us he was for raising him so well. And it was just a lovely thing. So then that next fall, when Jonathan went off to college, when he came home at Thanksgiving, he decided he wanted to get a family picture made with his birth parents. And he, so he contacted them both. They were both going to be in town, and he asked them to meet, go to this park and take some pictures. So they did. I didn't. I don't even remember seeing the pictures, to be honest with you, until somewhat recently. So they go to take these pictures. And then like a few months later, I remember Jonathan saying, hey, did you know Billy and Savannah have kind of gotten together after that? And they're like dating. And sure enough.
And she had never been married?
She got married about 5 years before that. She had gotten married. We actually met that guy, but they were only married like a year and a half or 2 years, and just did not work out, and they got divorced. And then Billy's wife had died 6 or 7 years before that. So they got together, and a year later they got married. And it was during COVID, and Savannah asked Jonathan if he would walk her down the aisle, because it was going to be a really small family wedding outdoors. They had invited us, to be like on a Zoom link, for the wedding. And she asked Jonathan because she was not very close to her dad at all. And that's who she wanted to walk her down the aisle. And so Jonathan was like, yeah, great. He's all about it. Jonathan loves attention and loves to be in the spotlight and everything. He was like, great, So so that was really sweet. They got married, and that was just such an amazing God thing, because apparently they kind of, like at those family pictures or whatever that Jonathan set up, they looked at each other and kind of were like, huh, like, why did we break up? I guess we broke up because our parents kind of told us we should break up,
Well, going back to the word grace,
yeah,
is God's grace. Right
it
there.
is. It's such grace. Yeah.
That story, first of all, that you were able to adopt 2 children, not at the same time, who are from the same biological parents, bring them together, and that Jonathan's, about to drop this microphone, and that Jonathan's birth parents got back together after one married, is widowed, has adopted.
I think he was 20 years old when they got married. 19 or 20.
Unbelievable.
19, I think, maybe 19. Yeah, it was crazy. Just, yeah. And then they've had 2 kids in the last 2 years.
What?
He has 2 birth siblings, full siblings, right? He's been to see one of them, a boy and a girl. And yeah, so I remember asking him, so the boy was born when he was just about to turn 21, or he was 21, I guess. And I said, Jonathan, how's it feel to have a brother? He always wanted a brother. He was like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird, huh? Yeah.
And then now there's another?
And now there's a girl. Mm-hmm. Now there's a little girl.
There's like another girl, another sister.
Yeah.
Wow. That story, I didn't know that part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. And yeah, it's really cool, right? And it's amazing. And I'm just so I'm glad for them. I'm glad for Jonathan. I mean, yeah, it's just more people that love him, That's the way I've always kind of looked at birth parents. There's just more people that love you, and that's kind of what we taught the kids. Yeah.
Well, I have 3 things to say about that. Number 1 is my stepmom said the same thing. When my parents divorced, my dad and my stepmom got together. My stepmom, this was when I was in the 2nd grade, 3rd grade when they got married. She's like, this is just more people to love you. Yeah. And my parents were great. And one day I'll do a podcast on how amazing they were with their whole divorce. And it didn't start out great. It got great though. But how wonderful my stepmom was. And she's like, this is just more people to love you. And that was such a great way of looking at it. But what I see in this story is God took a total mess and turned it into a miracle. I mean, he was much. Look at that. Look what I can do.
I know. Wow. Yeah. He's just so amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Only he could do that. And
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing, for all adopted parents, those of you who have adopted children, I'm always amazed when you are so unselfish to not be threatened by birth parents. I feel like my selfish, insecure nature would be like, I don't know if I want to tell them because I don't want them to love me less, or I don't want anything to come in between us. And I know that's not the right way of looking at it. That's just human, me being totally authentic on how my gut reaction is. And was that ever anything you considered?
I mean, it's definitely a thought that I had. I think probably what helped me a lot in preparing to adopt was I read a book about birth mothers, and I read really from their perspective what adoption's like, because it's super hard. It's a huge loss for the birth parents. It's a huge decision, often at a young age, often without a lot of support. And so I really wanted to kind of understand that perspective. And then I think and that's really the gift that Jonathan's birth parents, his birth dad's parents showed us, really was that it's just more love. They started bringing all 3 of our kids presents for their birthdays and Christmas. And they were the ones that were most standoffish at first because they had wanted to adopt him. They were hurt. They were hurt when we picked him up in the hospital. I remember the lady from the adoption agency was like, "Oh, isn't this exciting?" As we rounded the corner, leaving the room where we took him with all of the families there. We took him out of
Wow.
that room, carried him out of that room. We round the corner to these elevators, and this woman, turns to me and she says, "Don't you feel great?" And I was like, "No." I mean,
Mm,
I don't
mhm.
know what I feel. I mean, yes,
Yeah,
no,
super
this is
conflicted.
really hard, I just,
Mhm,
it's not, yeah, great isn't the way I would describe this at the moment.
mhm,
I'm,
mhm,
I'm, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. That's what I mostly am. And it's hard,
mhm,
so yeah, I think I just, yeah, I just realized, and I think it's just coming from a position of faith and knowing that none
mm,
of these kids are our possession. They're given to us for
mhm,
a time to be good stewards
mhm,
of, like everything else that we're
mhm,
given, really, I mean, whether they're born of us or adopted, we're just
mhm,
given these kids to raise them and point them to God and
mhm,
teach them who they are in him and send them off into the
mhm.
world to do the things that, he's called them to do, not me. So I think it's that too, that they're just not
Mhm.
mine.
Have you always had that perspective, or has that come over time? Because that's not a
I,
that's not a one that's easy to adopt, but I completely agree with you, and I have to
I
remind
don't
myself of
know.
that
I
also.
don't know really where it's come from. It's just what in part being a pediatrician too, I think, I've seen those parents that just clutch on to their
Mhm,
kids and, they're just hanging on for dear life and and they're not doing themselves any favors. Like it's
mhm,
really, and they're not doing their kids any favors.
mhm,
It puts those kids in a very tough spot, I think. And,
mhm.
I mean, we all, I certainly hold on to my kids
Of
tightly about
course.
some things too, but I've just seen parents that have really been able to let go of their kids too in a really beautiful way, and as that's supposed to happen, as they're supposed to let their kids go over time,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
so yeah, I think I've just seen a lot of families and a lot of kids,
mhm.
and I've just seen that that's really the way it's meant to work. Um,
Well, and I think that's when you have such a deep faith and relationship with God, it makes that so much easier
yeah,
because back to, they're not mine to begin with. He's just I'm the earthly mama,
yeah,
and they're just my little gift right now,
yeah,
and they're his. And
yeah.
I remembered when the first time that was ever said to me was a neighbor. This is when we lived in Austin, and she was a neighbor down the street. She had two little kids, probably Mullane and Durant's age at the time, little bitty, like toddler and baby.
Mhm.
And she came one day and knocked on my door. I'll never forget this because it was really random. And she said to me, and I do believe she had the gift of, I think she was prophetic. And she said, well, this is actually, let me rewind. Before we even ever had kids, the whole reason I knew I always wanted children, but I was just like, golly, we've got this amazing life and I'm footloose and fancy free and I go when I want and Russell travels all the time. But I mean, it was worked and it was good. And I was like, how is children going to happen?
Mm,
Even though I knew I wanted them, it was just like, how's this going to work? And feeling a little selfish, like, do I want to give up, my freedom and all this? And she came and knocked on my door one day and said, hey, I know this is going to be really weird for me to tell you this, but God just wanted me to let you know. And we've never had this conversation with her. I was not close with her in this way. She said, God just wanted me to let you know that it's all going to work out.
mm,
Like, I know you're worried a lot about how it's going to work with the kids, but it's all going to work out. And I was like,
mhm.
how do you know? What in the world?
Wow,
And so
that's
then,
awesome.
yeah, and
Yeah.
amazing. Then she comes back one day and we're just talking, and she said, I just had this realization, or, basically God just came over her and said, um, your children are not yours.
Mm,
They're mine. So I need you to
mm,
let go a little bit.
yeah. Mhm,
Like you're holding on so tight and you're so afraid to make a mistake and
mhm,
so afraid they're going to hurt. She's kind of a nervous
yeah.
person, a little high strung.
Mhm,
And he reminded her, they're not yours to begin with.
mhm, yeah. Yeah, it's very freeing. I mean, it's just, it's just when they start driving or whatever it is,
Mm,
where you see people that are just so afraid, and I don't want to live in fear.
Mhm, mhm.
That's not fear and faith don't, I mean,
No.
they don't really go together. They're not exactly opposites, but I mean, they don't, if I really believe in the God of the universe, and what am I doing
Mhm.
being afraid of what's going to
Totally.
happen, when they drive to the party or whatever,
Mhm.
yeah, what am I really saying about this God that I believe in?
Yeah. What are you
So
really saying about your faith? And I've heard this. I've not gone and done the research and counted it, but I need to. Apparently, in the Bible, do you know how many times it says something along the lines of "Don't be afraid"?
no, but there's a lot of
Trust
them.
in me, don't be. Apparently, if you Google search it, it's 365 times.
Oh, wow. Yeah, one for every day. Yep, one for
And
every day.
so he
Wow.
knows our hearts. He knows he made us. He knows how we're
I
wired. Like,
know. Yeah,
and so yet every day there's one for every day of the week.
I know.
Every one for every day of the year.
That is really cool, Nisa. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just so much of our gut response is, to be afraid. And but yeah,
Yeah,
I got God on my side. What am I doing being afraid,
totally.
Ugh.
Well, as I like to say, the wise poet rapper 50 Cent. One time I listened to he had a great interview. Oprah interviewed him. This is years ago, and he said Oprah asked him something about praying or fear or something, and
Wait,
he
which
said
rapper is it?
50 Cent. 50 Cent is his name.
50,
It's
50, oh, 50
50,
Cent. Okay, I got
50
it.
Cent. 50 Cent. And he said his music isn't all that clean. So, but he said, look, you can't pray and worry at the same time.
Yeah,
Like you either
it's true.
choose worry or you choose pray, but you
Right.
can't.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, 50, oh my gosh.
That is so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I grew up with a mom that worried, like who woke up
mm,
in the night and worried about things.
yeah.
And I don't know, I guess, yeah, I think about things for sure, but, and
Mhm,
plan and think and stuff. But yeah, but I try to turn it into prayer because like you said, yeah,
mhm,
there's just, like it says in the Bible, you can't change one
mhm,
single day, one single hair of your head. You can't change anything with that worry, All you do
mhm.
is waste a lot of energy.
Mhm.
I think
That's
that,
one of my favorite lines about worry is it's like sitting in a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't take you anywhere.
yeah,
You
and
know?
I think I'm thankful that God made me a pragmatist.
Yeah.
I'm really a practical person because it's like, yeah, it's like, let's just get up and do something because, sitting here
Mhm.
is not accomplishing anything.
No. Oh, I love it. Except creating problems in the whole body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, so there is a connection.
Yeah.
And so therefore I like to say this is that little sweet song we all learned in Sunday school. Careful little eyes what you see. Be
Oh,
careful little ears
yeah.
what you hear. It's above everybody.
Yeah.
We got to really protect this and this and this because what
Yeah.
we see and what we hear, it affects. And there's a whole system out there that's trying to like put all this stuff in our brain and in our hearts to
Yeah.
make us afraid. And we can't. We got to live. We just got to live our fullest and do our best and
Yeah.
trust he's got us and that he
And
does.
that everything will kill you, but you gotta, I guess if I'd change the sign, it would be that you got just have fun and have faith.
Anything will kill you, so you might as well have fun and have faith.
That's right.
Yes. Okay, well, this is so perfect. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Marion, what is your favorite book and why?
Wow. I don't
I know it's
know. I
hard.
mean, I really do love, I've read, I love this book called Cutting for Stone by
Mhm.
Abraham Farghese. He's a surgeon. He's a physician. I just read another one by him called, Water, something about the Covenant of Water is his
Mm.
newest book. Man, he's an amazing writer. And something about, there's always some medical stuff in it. So I do like that aspect of it. But something about the relationships and the way he paints relationships and pictures of people that Cutting for Stone is really cool because it's about twin brothers.
Mhm.
One's they're both physicians. One's a surgeon, one's a family physician. One develops, I don't even remember. I'm terrible with my memory. But I don't even remember what, but one of them develops a life-threatening medical problem and the other, but it's really they're growing up and they're kind of growing apart and they're growing, it's a lot of things. It's so much their relationship. But anyway, that's a cool book.
Okay.
Abraham Verghese, amazing guy.
Abraham. Okay. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite quote?
Well, I was thinking about this. I don't know. Amy told me the one I put on the spotlight, which I didn't even remember, but I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. But, and I was thinking one of my favorite verses is probably, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. So don't be afraid to be weak and then be strong. Because somebody else is making me strong. So that's 2 Corinthians 12:9.
Say that again.
2 Corinthians 12:9.
Thank you. That is beautiful. I wish I would have saved that for the very last, because we could just be like, done. That was amazing. Thank you. We're going to have a couple more rapid fire questions for you. What is your favorite thing to do on a Sunday afternoon?
Oh man, I don't know. It could be read a book. It could be definitely take a walk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably taking a walk and reading a book. Even better if I can take that walk with somebody else.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Mm-hmm. On a nice fall day.
Oh, cool, crisp day. Yes.
Speaking of fall,
yes.
What do you love most about fall as we're excitingly entering into it?
Right now, it's just going to be the temperature, right? I do love fall leaves. I do love the smell of fall, the kind of fire burning smell of fall, and I love all those things. Yeah, yeah, all the senses. I think.
Yes. Yes. What are you most looking forward to?
I don't know. I've got a few little outings coming up, and going to camp again, going to a family camp weekend this month, and going to Colorado the next month. Oh, I'm looking forward to going to the mountains. Yeah, and hiking. The last time I hiked was right as COVID was just about to start, just a few weeks before that. And I hiked in Colorado, and I hiked in the snow, and my niece and nephew were like, "Oh, I don't know if you want to go. It's snow, it snowed." And like, yeah, heck, I want to go. It was so
Do you know me? I'm Marion. I say that to everything.
It was so beautiful, to hike in the snow with all the flocked trees and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and hiking with my new hip,
Yes.
Going back with my new hip. Yeah.
Okay, so back to snow real fast and just being aware of your surroundings and being grateful all the time. Just this morning, I've recently been having this conversation with the kiddos. When they're in the car, I'm like, I don't care if you're listening to something on your phone, you must be looking around you at all times because there's something going on around you that you need to see, whether it be like you're observing how like the traffic patterns, right? Like how things are flowing, something like something that's going on over there with these two people. Like there's so much to learn and observe out there, and if you're always looking down and it's pet peeve of mine. I'm not perfect at all, but just this morning I saw, I don't even know why I went on my phone. I got like some update, which of course took me to something else, and it was a picture of two crow. I don't know where they were. It was snow-covered cars. These two crows were frolicking on the car, on the snow, literally like rolling down the windshield. And then they like get back up at the top and slide down and then go back up. And so I called Durant over. I was like, Durant, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's things like this. If you're always staring at your phone, you miss
these things. I know.
Always. There's so many cool things going on at all times.
Crows are so smart. Did you know that? They are ridiculously smart.
Idea.
They are some of the smartest birds around. It's amazing. Yeah, but that is so cool. Yeah.
So I hope you see some crows sliding down.
Yeah, I've never seen that. That sounds so awesome.
Repeating it. Anyway,
that is very fun.
So yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack it. It was
That was
just
fine.
like,
I love that.
okay. 2 more questions. What would you tell your 21-year-old self?
Oh, just lighten up and have fun. I think just that, I was
Mm-hmm.
uptight about various things, right? And I think I was still trying to be a perfectionist. Oh gosh.
You're a
I call
recovering
myself
perfectionist.
a recovering perfectionist, but I would have just said, give it up a lot sooner, honey. I mean, there's just no value in this. Give it up.
So good. Okay, well then that's perfect into this last question. What is the best wisdom you have ever received?
I mean, I think that's impossible to answer, but so many things that I've heard in Ignite, really, just to don't be afraid to be amazing, be strong, be yourself. And it's not self-centered stuff, really. I mean, that sounds self-centered, but it's really what I want to tell other people. It's what I want to feel in my own body and my own soul so that I can help other people do that,
Yeah, I completely
can
agree with
lift
you. It's
them.
not a self-serving thing.
No,
It is
it's
it's a cycle. Like,
yeah, it's
you
a
feel
gift
good,
to
you
share.
give. Yeah.
It's really feeling strong enough myself that I have that gift to share, because I should be sharing that gift. Yeah.
You have a huge gift to share, and you just shared it with me and those lucky people who get to listen to this and hear all about everything. Marion, this I knew it was going to be amazing, but this like blows my mind. I could keep doing this with you. You were so fun. I feel like I knew we were soul sisters the second we started singing Adele together. However, that being said, I so admire your faith, and I admire your just who you are as a person and how you live your life. It is you live so beautifully, and I just really appreciate you. You are a beautiful human inside and out, and I'm so grateful for you. So thank you for giving me 2 hours of your time today, giving us 2 hours of your time, and for sharing everything that you did. You are dear and wonderful. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking questions, and thank you for inspiring me and loving me. God. I appreciate that.
Girl, I do. I love you. Well, okay. Thank you. I look so forward to. There will be a to continued, a Marion 2.0 after more travel. We'll come back and do this again.
I finally get on an Ignite adventure trip. I'm determined.
It's going to happen. We have to trust it'll happen exactly when it's supposed to happen.
When it's supposed to, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Take care. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thank you for listening to the Power of We podcast. And if you happen to be in Austin, we would love for you to join our fitness community. But if not, I would love for you to join me and our at-home fitness community. Most importantly, thank you for being part of the Power of We family.